right, so here's a few news articles. I just like to talk about the news when waiting for class to start. Doesn't start until 10 after. So they tried to make an AI, Google's AI, and they claim it is more accurate than a real clinician at diagnosing disease and has a better bedside manner. So this will be interesting to see. I know most stories about AI chatbots have been about how bad they are, but they're getting better all the time. And there's quite a lot of medical misdiagnosis, so maybe the bar isn't really that high. Anyway, it's an interesting claim, and it'll be good to see where it goes. So podcasts get advertising, and the advertising money is going away. So all online advertising is shrinking like crazy, newspaper advertising and so on. And one thing that just happened to podcasts is Apple has changed how it counts users. If you followed a podcast, apparently with the default Apple podcast app, it counted you as reading it, even if all it did was automatically download and you never actually watched it. And they fixed it, so it will only count you as a viewer if you actually watch it. And so that caused the numbers to go down by a lot. A similar one, by the way, is Google just ended third-party cookies. Third-party cookies are the reason Google is rich. They got it from a company called DoubleClick. It is extremely invasive. They put cookies on every website on the web, so Google knows everything you do, whether you like it or not. And with that, they can totally target ads because they know everything, everywhere you've ever gone and everything you've done. And it turns out that that's not a very good idea, especially with Europe bringing up more laws. You don't need all that to target ads. All you really need is a few basic facts like your age, your sex, whether you're married, things like that. That's enough to target ads. So Google's switching to a new system called the Privacy Sandbox. But the immediate effect of rolling this out to 1% of Chrome users is the value of advertising went down by 30%. So it is not good, although presumably that's because the advertisers have not yet adapted to the new system. But anyway, it's we're trying to have some privacy. So you probably heard about a lot of people in America who have said something about the war in Israel and Gaza, and if you say the wrong thing, you get canceled and fired and blamed, and people pick at you and everything. And of course, it's much worse if you say the wrong thing inside Israel. And this goes all the way back. Every time there's a war, happened here many times, there's rules that you must support the war. And saying anything negative about the war will lead to legal punishment. This, by the way, is the source of the Supreme Court, oftenly quoted statement that you can have free speech, but you cannot yell fire in a crowded building. The original point at which they made them make that statement was people who dared to say that we should not be fighting in World War I and our soldiers should not be sent over to die for that, which is not a terribly insane position about World War I. And certainly not insane about the Vietnam War. But anyway, this guy, just a few days after the October 7 terrorist attack, said he thinks they're killing too many people in Gaza and they shouldn't do it, so he got locked up. This is probably illegal, although I guess we'll find out. It's tough. That's why I think Scott Galloway is a guy I follow a lot of podcasts of his, and he had a very wise take on this. He said, if you don't have any expertise in politics in Israel, don't say anything. You probably can't add anything to the discussion, and all you'll do is get somebody mad, which I think that applies to me. I have no idea what's going on in Israel. I sure wish they wouldn't kill so many people, but that's... What's that? Yes, he was in Israel, and right after the attack, he went on and said they're doing the wrong thing in Gaza. And of course, at that time, tensions are high, and they'll just lock you up and fire you and everything for saying such a thing. It used to... It has happened before in this country, absolutely. At the time of World War I and World War II, it definitely happened. I don't think it would happen so much now, but maybe. Yes. Yes. Several professors have been fired and demoted from president position and so on, and TV news people have lost their job. People with public-facing jobs will lose it for making an unpopular statement. That's true, but they're not throwing them in prison. But yeah, you definitely will get pushback here. So I was very pleased to see this. I've had arguments with people about this for years. How biased is the news? And this one here I thought was the most interesting, because one thing I hear a lot of people tell me is MSNBC is the same as Fox in a mirror. And I always think that's not really fair, because Fox lies a lot more. And so these guys went and did an analysis. And here you are, for accuracy, here's CNN and News Nation. I don't know if that, but these score high on accuracy. MSNBC is lower, Fox is lower, and this, I think, is Newsmax. Yeah, Newsmax is even lower. So this makes sense to me. This follows my intuitive grasp. And here's, of course, left-right. MSNBC is the most far left of the major news sources, and Newsmax is the most far right, and Fox is way over here. So anyway, I thought this is pretty good. They made some attempt to do this scientifically, which is good to see, because we have a lot of bias in news, and by the way, we always have. When I was a kid, I read books about Doc Holliday, the gunslinger, and there were two competing gangs that ran newspapers, one that supported the Earps and one that hated the Earps, and they just told totally different stories about everything. Even the most basic facts, there's no longer historical record to know what happened, because all they did was lie like crazy on both sides of a political divide. So it's not anything new that the news is full of propaganda, but it certainly is making a mess of American democracy right now. And this is pretty amazing. These guys wanted to treat cancer, so they took a mouse with a bladder tumor and they injected the mouse with nanobots. And these nanobots are just little particles of some porous material like plastic or something, and then inside there's a radioactive particle. So these things have something attached to the outside of it that will attract it to the tumor. They will absorb into the tumor and kill the tumor cells. And this is extremely effective. So right now they've only done it on mice, but this would probably be a very good treatment for people if they keep refining it. This is something that's been the holy grail of cancer treatment for years, is some way to kill the cancer without killing healthy cells. And using microscopic nanobots has been one of the science fiction ideas forever, sailing there with some tiny little gadget that will just kill the cells one by one, the way your immune system does. Anyway, that's enough of the news. Let me stop this.